They say your first love leaves a scar. But what they don't tell you is that sometimes, the scar smiles at you in public, lies to you in private, and breaks you piece by piece, with a kiss on the forehead and a knife behind the back. The beginning of everything. Selena met Jace Ryder at a red carpet event. He wasn't supposed to look at her. But he did. And once he did, he never stopped. They were just teenagers then, two souls drowning in fame, but craving something real. And real is exactly what she gave him. Selena gave him late-night phone calls when his anxiety was bad, private voice notes he said he saved just to fall asleep to, and quiet support in rooms where people cheered for him but didn't know him. He told her she was his calm, his muse, his forever. She believed him. The first time she saw him flirt with another girl at a party, she told herself it was nothing. The second time, it was a rumor, just tabloids, he swore. She forgave him. The third time, it was his phone left face down. Her stomach turned. Her hands shook. She opened it. There they were. Texts, voice memos, photos, too many names to count. Too much to unsee. Selena didn't confront him right away. Instead, she asked, "Do you still love me?" Jace smirked, kissed her forehead, and said, "You're the only one who gets me. Don't ruin it with paranoia." Elena started losing herself. Her songs weren't hers anymore. Her smile was rehearsed. She looked in the mirror and saw a girl trying to be enough for someone who was never empty, just greedy. And every time she tried to leave, he'd post something vague on social media. Sometimes the ones who love you the most are the hardest to keep. Thousands would flood her comments, calling her dramatic, unstable, ungrateful. But only she knew how many nights she cried herself to sleep while Jace partied with someone new. One night, Selena stood in front of Jace, holding his phone. No yelling, no tears, just this. "I kept giving, thinking one day you'd be full enough to love me back. But I finally get it, you're not empty. You just like watching people pour themselves into you until they're dry." She walked away, and for the first time, he didn't follow. "I thought he was the love of my life. But some people don't come into your life to love you. They come to show you what love should never feel like." Selena left quietly. No press release. No drama. She just vanished, deleted pictures, stopped responding to interviews, and disappeared into herself. But Jace Ryder didn't go silent. Just days later, he was seen holding hands with a blonde pop starlet on a yacht. The tabloids spun it like a whirlwind love story. Jace finds happiness after years of trying. Selena who? Looks like Jace's heart finally healed. Selena scrolled in silence. Each headline felt like a slap. Each comment a blade. He upgraded. Selena was too emotional anyway. Good for him. She was always holding him back. They didn't know she had nursed his panic attacks, picked him up from clubs at 3 a.m., lied to cover up his overdoses. But the world loves a pretty lie more than an ugly truth. Weeks passed. Jace dropped a new song. The chorus? "She was toxic, always crying, I was trying, she was lying." People assumed it was about her. And he never denied it. Podcasts, YouTube gossip channels, influencers, everyone weighed in. Selena was branded, the ex who couldn't let go. No one knew the story. But they had picked their hero. She was the villain in his storybook. And no one cared that the pages were stained with her tears. Selena started losing work. Brands pulled back. Producers stopped calling. She's too fragile. Bad PR risk. Still hung up on Jace? She began to question her own worth. Was she broken? Was she dramatic? Was she the villain? Late one night, she opened her diary and wrote, "If I screamed, would anyone even believe me? Or would they say I'm trying to ruin his career?" That's when the panic attacks started. That's when she stopped singing. That's when the girl who loved too loud went completely silent. One day, she got a call from someone who had worked with both her and Jace. A quiet voice said, "Selena, I saw what he did. I just want you to know, it wasn't in your head. He's been playing this game for years." For the first time in months, she cried, but not from pain. From relief. She wasn't crazy. She wasn't dramatic. She had just loved someone who was really, really good at pretending. "They painted me as bitter. But bitterness doesn't come from nothing. It comes from swallowing hurt while someone else spins lies and watches you drown in them." Selena began to breathe again. Not loudly, not publicly, but deeply, like someone resurfacing after drowning. She wasn't ready for the stage, or the cameras, or the chaos. So she started writing. Not for charts, not for approval, just for her. And what poured out of her was everything she had buried for years. "He kissed me with lies on his lips. I said I loved him, and he heard control. I said I was hurting, and he said I was ruining his image." Her journal became her weapon. Her pain, her ink. An old assistant of Jace's left a cryptic comment on a fan forum. If y'all knew what he said to her off camera, you'd delete every playlist he's on. Another dancer posted a now deleted story. She covered up bruises with makeup and called it stage lighting. Still defended him. Suddenly, fans started asking questions. Digging up clips. Looking closer. That old video where Jace shoved a phone out of Selena's hand. That red carpet moment where she flinched when he whispered in her ear. That interview where she laughed nervously when asked if he was faithful. The puzzle pieces clicked. People started seeing what she had tried so hard to hide. Selena released a surprise single. Just her voice, a piano, and a line that shook the internet. You broke me like a habit, then blamed me for bleeding. The world paused. She didn't name him. She didn't have to. Within hours, #WeSeeYouSelena trended globally. Suddenly, she wasn't the bitter ex. She was the survivor everyone had overlooked. People began to apologize. Strangers flooded her DMs. Even celebrities posted support, saying they'd seen things, but had stayed silent out of fear. Selena didn't gloat. She didn't lash out. She just posted a photo. No caption. Just her, smiling, unfiltered, free. Jace tried to spin it. He went live. He talked about forgiveness, healing, and learning from past mistakes. But the comments weren't on his side anymore. He looked tired, desperate, like a man watching his castle burn, realizing the match had always been in her hand. I didn't need revenge. I needed truth. And now that the world has heard it, I don't have to scream anymore. They thought they buried me. But they didn't know. I was a seed. And now, I've grown thorns. Selena walked into the studio, not the girl who once begged for love, but the woman who now demanded respect. Her new team didn't ask about Jace. They just handed her the mic and said, say what you need to say. And she did. The album dropped without warning. No press tour, no interviews, just music and truth. Each song was a wound stitched with melody. False Forever, a ballad about manipulation masked as love. His Mirror Lies, a whisper turned war cry against gaslighting. Gold Doesn't Glow, a song that subtly referenced how fame protected the abuser. Fans called it raw, critics called it genius. Jace called his lawyers. Selena received a text from him. Congrats on the music. Hope it made you feel better. Maybe now you can finally let go. She didn't reply. She didn't need to. Instead, she posted a video. One shot. Black and white. Her face. No makeup. She stared into the camera and spoke. To the ones who said I was obsessed. You're right. I was obsessed with proving I was worthy of the bare minimum. To the one who said I'd never be more than your shadow. Look again. Because this light, it's all mine now. It broke the internet, not out of rage, but because it wasn't angry. It was free. Jace tried to reclaim control. He did interviews. He cried on camera. He talked about regret and growth. But it was too late. Screenshots from past girlfriends began surfacing. Voicemails leaked, ones where he screamed, threatened, blamed. The fans he once controlled turned on him. Sponsors dropped. His silence, once seductive, now reeked of guilt. He lost the one thing he valued more than love, his image. Selena accepted an award a few months later, Artist of the Year. She stood on stage in a red dress, glowing, grounded, and unshaken. Her speech was short. This isn't about revenge. It's about reclamation. Of my voice. Of my truth. Of myself. And the crowd rose for her. Not because she was famous. But because she was fearless. He tried to write my ending. But I picked up the pen, and turned the story into something he could never touch again. Selena returned to the city where it all began, the coffee shop where Jace first wrote her name on a napkin. The bridge where they once carved a heart into the railing. The rooftop they used to sneak away to when the fame got too loud. She didn't cry. She didn't smile either. She just stood there, quietly, and whispered to herself, thank you, for surviving it. Not him, her. A respected journalist finally asked the question. What would you say to Jace today, if you had the chance? Selena looked into the lens. Calm, clear, nothing. Because silence isn't empty. It's earned. The world leaned in. But she didn't give them drama. She gave them dignity. Late one night, she opened an old notebook. The pages smelled like heartbreak. She flipped to a letter she wrote years ago, but never sent. I hope you heal someday. Not because you deserve peace, but because I do. And I can't carry your wounds anymore. She ripped the page, burned it, watched the ashes float. It didn't make her lighter. But it didn't make her heavy anymore either. Months later, a message came through her assistant. Jace would like to meet. Just one conversation. For closure. Selena smiled gently. Tell him, I already had it. He just wasn't invited. And with that, she closed the last chapter. Not with a bang, not with revenge, but with grace. I loved too loud once. And I was punished for it. But now, I love softer, smarter, and most importantly, I love myself more than I ever loved him. Some endings don't feel like a finish line. They feel like a deep breath after holding your ribs together for too long. 1 year later, the world had moved on. Trends faded, headlines blurred. Even Jace became just another cautionary tale whispered in studio hallways. But Selena, she was still here. Not just surviving, living. A quiet cafe on the Amalfi Coast. She sat alone with a journal, pen in hand, sunlight dancing across her face. No paparazzi, no entourage, just peace. He wasn't famous. He wasn't complicated, just a man with kind eyes and no expectations. They met at a bookshop. He'd handed her a poetry book and said, "This reminds me of someone who's been through fire, and didn't burn bitter." He didn't ask for selfies. Didn't talk about her past. He just listened, and when she spoke, he didn't flinch at the weight of her words. They sat by the ocean that evening, and she said, "I don't need saving anymore. But I like how safe it feels just sitting beside you." As the sky turned golden, she stood barefoot on the shore. No cameras, no rumors, just her silhouette and the sound of waves, echoing like applause that didn't need an audience. She whispered, "This chapter's over. And for once, I'm not afraid of what comes next."